And welcome back. We have made it to the White Cemetery. I mean, it really wasn't like a big drive or anything like that. It's really only 10 minutes from my house. We're here at the White Cemetery in North Barrington, Illinois. And it's probably one of the most beautiful sites in the area. Not only is it surrounded by million-dollar homes up and down Cuba Road, this is also a very peaceful spot. And actually we're pretty lucky that we got in here, because sometimes the gates to the cemetery are closed, and that's only because there's been a great deal of vandalism in this cemetery because of the reputation that it has accrued or earned itself over the years. So I'm going to switch it around and let you guys take a look around. Now, I know what you may be thinking. Rick, not really believing that this place is haunted. And it would be understandable that if you actually thought that. But however, I guarantee you that it is. There have been many stories over the decades concerning White Cemetery. And a lot of them, yes, a lot of them can be, fall into that urban legend area of research and study in the paranormal. That is true. However, there have been a great deal of eyewitness testimony about that this place really is haunted. Even now, I'm walking on the path, and we're going to stay on the path only because I want to be respectful. We should always be respectful of cemeteries and graveyards, even the allegedly haunted ones, because I just think that that is the proper thing to do. But this place has earned quite the reputation for being very haunted over the years. I myself have been visiting White Cemetery since, I would say, the mid-90s, and I actually took a picture, and I'll turn it around. Over in this area right here, I took a picture, and in the picture, what looked like the apparition of a skeleton just standing beyond the fence line. And, like I said, that was over 30 years ago, so I don't have that picture anymore because it was a 35 millimeter picture. So unfortunately, it is long gone. But what are some of the stories concerning the White Cemetery? One of the stories, and I've actually seen this myself, while driving up and down Cuba Road at night, what looks like a giant ball of light following along the fence line. Now, when I first saw this, I was really, really excited. But upon closer inspection to the fence, see this black wrought iron fence right here, it's highly reflective. So if you're driving along here late at night, your headlights would be reflecting off of that highly reflective surface of the gate, of the fence, making you think that you're seeing a giant ball of light. So that part I can debunk. What I can't debunk about it is that people have claimed that this giant ball of light actually leaps over the fence in the middle of the road and has actually been known to chase people up and down Cuba Road. Again, real haunting or urban legend? Sometimes it's a little difficult to say. Sometimes in paranormal research and investigation, we have to do our due diligence in trying to separate legend from actual hauntings and actual facts. Another apparition that is allegedly seen here is that of a woman in white. Now, I know that that might not exactly sound the most terrifying, and even I myself will say that that doesn't exactly sound very terrifying. However, This old lady apparition is said to leave. Sorry, I just had to check that. Leave the cemetery, go out in the middle of the road here in Cuba Road, jump in front of cars, and people either have reported to have hit her and then got out and found nobody there, or they come to a screeching halt and she stands in front of their car and lets out this maniacal cackling laughter that it would be sure to leave even the bravest person with chills running up and down their spine and leaving their blood running cold. So not only is the White Cemetery haunted, but according to many people who not only live here but also visit, Cuba Road in and of itself is also very, very haunted. Some of the apparitions that are seen along Cuba Road, and we're going to get over there right now and take a look. So just kind of wanted to show you this fence right here where people think that they see the giant balls of light, which actually could very well just be people's headlights. And here we have the main cemetery gates. Like I said, I can't believe I was actually lucky enough to be in here today, because the last couple times that I visited, they had these gates shut off and closed down. I even brought my own son here a few years back, and very much disappointed to see that that it was closed off to the public. But here we are out on Cuba Road, and Cuba Road even itself is supposed to be incredibly haunted. Let's take a quick look up and down. So some of the paranormal activity that is said to happen on Cuba Road, again, a lot of people have claimed to have witnessed these apparitions, and a lot of people would also consider it to be nothing more than urban legend. So, the first one. Now, believe it or not, this area of Lake County used to be a popular stomping ground for Al Capone, and a lot of his associates, colleagues, I guess you could say, they would come up here to try and get away from the city of Chicago, so they can get away from the law, get away from the heat. If the heat was on, they would come up here and they would stay at one of the homes or one of the hotels. Everywhere from here all the way up to Fox Lake. If you remember, on a past one, we went to the Mineola. That was a really popular place for these guys to go and hide out if they needed to. But here in Barrington, it was popular as well for Al Capone and his guys. So one of the apparitions that is seen out here on Cuba Road has been described as being a rather large man in an old-fashioned suit from the 1920s and the 1930s, chomping on a cigar, suddenly appearing in people's rearview mirrors and just kind of like staring at them and giving them this disapproving look like, hey, I want you out of here and I want you out of here now. And that's exactly the impression that this apparition gives people. And right after it gives this impression, he just sort of vanishes. 2, the second apparition that has been recently seen and seen quite a bit along Cuba Road is that of an old-fashioned black 4-door sedan. This car is said to speed up behind people with its headlights blaring in the rearview mirror, and then all of a sudden just disappearing after giving a short chase down Cuba Road. Third apparition that is seen. And this one is huge because this also shares its lore with its Southside companion at Bachelor's Grove Cemetery, and that is, of course, a haunted farmhouse. Now, at the far end of Cuba Road, there was at one time a farmhouse there, and it was believed to have burnt down many, many decades ago. But people claim to see this glowing and even on fire farmhouse and people standing on the porch right before it disappears. Now, a friend of mine from high school actually claims to have seen this phantom farmhouse and the occupants standing on the porch. Now, this is a good friend of mine, somebody that I grew up with and knew very well, and when she says that she saw this, I believe her. I have no reason to doubt believing her. So I'm going to take another quick look around, and then we're going to wrap up our trip here to the White Cemetery. Who knows, maybe we'll get lucky and one of the spirits that's said to reside here will actually leave a voice for us on my cell phone while we film. So, before we leave this very, very peaceful and allegedly haunted cemetery, I just got to say, if you do happen to visit here, please be respectful, because there are still people being buried here. In fact, I had to delete. This is the second take. I had to delete the other video because a gentleman did come here, and he was visiting a grave and dropping some flowers off. We can't have that. I can't put that out there. That would be completely unethical and totally immoral. And I don't want to do that kind of thing. And I don't think that anybody in this field should be doing that kind of thing. So if you do come here, please always be respectful, not only of the living, but also of the dead. Because they have stories to tell too, and you may just get lucky and actually be told some of those stories. So as always, I'm Rick Hale. This was On the Road. Stay spooky.